If you're pouring your heart into your podcast, but still struggling to turn those listeners into paying clients, I've got something just for you. Imagine having a clear, simple plan to turn your listeners into buyers without relying on a huge audience or spending hours on social media. That's exactly what we'll create together in a podcast profit plan discovery call. During this free 20-minute call, I'll help you discover more opportunities for profit in your podcast and give you the next best step to turn your show into a client attracting machine. If I've got an offer that will help you expedite this process, then we can also discuss working together. Book your free podcast profit plan discovery call now by going to podcastingformoms.co/profit plan or by clicking the link in the show notes. I can't wait to chat with you. Let me say something that might sting just a little bit, but in a loving way. If your podcast feels like it's stalled, if your downloads are flat, if you're showing up consistently but you're not seeing client sales or momentum, it might not be because you need more strategies. It might be because there are a few things that you need to stop doing. So today I'm going to be breaking down 3 very common mistakes that I see mom podcasters make that quietly tank their podcast growth. And the worst part, most of these do feel productive. They're not. Let's get into it. Welcome to Podcasting for Moms, the show for moms in business ready to start, grow, and scale a podcast that turns their listeners into buyers. I'm Jenny Soneson, a podcast strategist and fellow mom entrepreneur. You're in the right place if you want to learn how to start and grow a podcast that attracts your ideal clients and really does the heavy lifting for you when it comes to selling your offers, all while balancing life as a busy mom. Are you ready to create a podcast that grows your income, impact, and influence? Let's make podcasting work for you because as moms, we know how to get things done. All right, let's jump into the episode. Hey, and welcome back to Podcasting for Moms, the podcast for mom entrepreneurs wanting to turn their listeners into buyers in part-time hours. I'm Jenny, mom of 2, podcast strategist, and reality TV junkie. So today we're going to be talking about 3 mistakes podcasters make that hinder their podcast growth, so let's jump in. So the first mistake is creating episodes without a clear purpose. So this is a big one. So many podcasters sit down, hit record, and think, I'll just share value. And while value is important, vague value doesn't convert. If you can't clearly answer this question before you record, that question is, what do I want my listener to think, feel, or do after this episode? Then your episode's probably trying to do either too much or nothing at all. So here's what this looks like in real life. You teach 7 different things in one episode. You ramble because you're thinking out loud, and you hope people figure out how this connects to your offer. But your listeners are busy. They're folding laundry, they're driving to school pickup, they're walking their dog. They need clarity, not a brain dump. So here's what to do instead. So before you record, I want you to decide one job for each episode. Is it meant to build trust? Is it meant to shift a belief? Is it meant to lead into one of your offers? Is it meant to warm them up for the next step? One episode, one focus, one clear takeaway. That's how you create momentum instead of noise. Okay, so the second mistake is treating your podcast like a hobby, even though you want business results. So this one might feel uncomfortable, but stay with me. So if you want your podcast to bring in clients, sell your offers, and support your income, you cannot run it like a passion project that you get to when you have time. I see this all the time. People have random posting schedules, no consistent calls to action, episodes that aren't connected to their business at all, and then they get frustrated. They feel like they're showing up. Why isn't this working? But here's the truth. Consistency builds trust and structure builds results. So your podcast doesn't need to be complicated, but it does need to be intentional. So here's what to do instead. I want you to think of your podcast as a pillar in your business, not just an extra task that you need to do. So that means that you need a realistic publishing schedule that you can keep up with, a clear way for listeners to work with you, and repeating your core message. And you need to be repeating your core message more often than you think you should. You're not going to be annoying when you do that. You're not being annoying when you're doing this. You're being clear. And clarity, well, it converts. And then we have our third and final mistake number 3, and that is obsessing over downloads instead of relationships. And I feel like this one is sneaky because it's so easy to think if my downloads were higher, everything would be easier. More downloads doesn't automatically mean more sales, better clients, or more impact, even though people might think that's the case. I've seen podcasts with tiny audiences generate consistent income and podcasts with big numbers that don't convert at all. And you may be wondering why, but that's just because growth isn't just about reach, it's about connection. So if people feel like you're talking to them, not at them, They're going to stick around, they're going to binge, and they're going to trust you. And trust is what turns listeners into buyers. So here's what to do instead. I want you to shift your focus from how many people are listening to who am I speaking to and how deeply am I serving them. Speak to one person, one season, and one problem. That's how you build a loyal audience that actually moves. So if your podcast growth feels slow, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Am I clear on the purpose of each episode? Am I treating this like a business asset or a side project? And lastly, am I prioritizing connection over vanity metrics? You don't need to start over. You don't need to podcast more. You just need to simplify and refocus. And if you want help doing that, and you want a podcast that fits into your life and supports your business, then that's exactly what I help moms do inside the Moms Behind the Mic Society. You can learn more about the society by going to the link in the show notes. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning into Podcasting for Moms. I hope today's episode gave you the tools and inspiration you need to make your podcast work smarter, not harder. If you love what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It means the world and helps other moms in business find the show. For more tips, resources, and support, head to podcastingformoms.co. Remember, you're not just building a podcast, you're building your legacy. Until next time, friends.